Hello guys, welcome. Today I'm going to talk about India's 1991 economic crisis. To understand this crisis, we must first look at the decade preceding it. That means 1980s. India's economic engine was choked by the license Raj system, a system where um, bureaucratic red tape dictated everything from production capacity to pricing. While the government engaged in expansionary fiscal policies to drive growth, it was funded by unsustainable borrowing. By 1990, our gross physical deficit had ballooned to around 8.4% of our GDP, which is a huge amount. We were borrowing heavily just to service all debts and fund daily administration and for working out daily needs, leaving the Indian economy fundamentally vulnerable to any external shock. This created a crisis. So the context we can say um, like external shock arrived in around August 1990 with the outbreak of the Gulf War. Practically overnight, global crude oil prices, issues like for an oil importing nation like India, this was devastating. But the war brought a triple warming. Our import bills surged, our export markets vanished, and the vital systems of foreign remittance dried up. Sensing the impending default, non-resident Indians began rapidly pulling their deposits out of Indian banks. The crisis had officially transitioned from a slow burn to an employment. So this discusses how debt trap played a major role here. Also, how the license raj, private enterprises through elaborate bureaucratic approvals, quotas, permits from government, all plays a major role in this crisis. So that creates a macroeconomic balance during 1990 to 1991. So here comes the certain shock I have mentioned earlier, the oil shock, the export collapse, and remittance dried up and capital flight. Then a slide talks about the brink 2 weeks from default. What is talking about? Let's see. By the mid 1991, India was staring into the abyss. Our foreign exchange reserves had evaporated to a mere $1.2 billion. It's a huge, just enough to finance 2 to 3 weeks of essential imports. The threat of a sovereign default, which would have permanently crippled Indian global credibility. In a move that shocked the nation and highlighted the severity of the crisis, the government quietly attributed 67 tons of the country's gold reserves to London and Switzerland because of the situation. Pledging our national gold was the necessary collateral to secure a $600 million lifeline. So next, we discuss about the reform, the paradigm shift. So the paradigm shift, how it becomes a critical scenario. The crisis forces change. As everyone knows, when there is a crisis, there comes some changes in the history. With the IMF demanding strict conditionalities for a bailout. Finance Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh delivered the historic July 1991 budget. The immediate band-aid was a two-step devaluation of the rupees by nearly 90% to make our export competitive. But the real cure was structural. The advent of liberalization and the privatization and globalization. In one stroke, industrial licensing was practically abolished, clearing the way for private enterprises. Um, the MRTP Act was scrapped and the doors were thrown up onto the world. Allowed foreign direct investment. FDI was opened for the foreigners to invest. up to 51%. The era of the encouraged economy was over. So here we discuss how the barriers, the legacy and barriers, comes into the act. The legacy of 1991 is undeniable. We transitioned from a struggling closed economy to a global powerhouse. Today, our forex reserves hover comfortably above $600 billion. However, the 1991 reforms were largely product market reforms, achieved double-digit growth today. We must tackle the unfinished agenda, factor market reforms, rigid labor force. Yeah, the high are the new license Raj. 1991 proved India can reform in a crisis. The challenge today is reform in terms of stability. So these all shows how India uh, overcome these situations. To achieve double-digit growth today, we must tackle the unfinished agenda. The factor market reforms, all these things were considered. How the remaining barriers also mentioned here. Thank you.